welcome to Coding After Work stream. Before we start, we would like to thank our sponsor, Progress Telerik, who is amazing and do amazing Blazor stuff.
They do.
They do. They have Blazor UI components with over 75 components. I actually haven't checked since the last stream. Might be more. Might be more. So if you are working with Blazor, you should definitely give it a try. And we will add a link in the chat later on.
And if you're not already following us on YouTube, please click the subscribe button, this one, and
YouTube.
The bell as well.
On YouTube.
Yes. not the one that just disappeared.
You never know. You can't be too clear, can you?
That's true.
But now, let's bring in our guest. Welcome, Sam. How are you doing?
I'm good. I just got on a plane because I heard you folks are ready to let vaccinated Americans back.
Have we ever stopped? Sweden has been a little loose with the rules, I think. I don't know. Have we? I can't recall we have a ban or on someone. I don't know. But I do know
I'm better
that
off back in my kitchen then.
I remember traveling.
Do you?
No.
I saw someone posting on Facebook, my bag is out or something like that. What's that? That bag? What's a bag?
It's where we store the other bags right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's just storage nowadays.
So I'll tell you, my suitcase is just sitting in the garage for a year and a half, and my backpack, I pulled it out the other day. It had cobwebs on it, like spiders. Oh, this is bad. But there's light at the end of the tunnel. I think as a world, we are some parts of the world are hurting more. But we are slowly crawling out of this pandemic, and I actually have an end date in mind. This June is my first in-person conference after a year and a half. So we shall see.
Really?
Yeah.
That's pretty close.
That's close.
Yeah, it's coming up.
Is it in the US?
Yes. With all guidelines in mind and social distancing and all that.
Yeah.
We're talking about joining a conference in Poland in September, right?
Yeah, we were invited to speak, and we're like, yes, if we are done with all the vaccination stuff, and they were super friendly. They told us about the plan in Poland, and we told them about the plan in Sweden. So I mean, everybody understands. So they are starting. I think we're up to 34% of the Swedes actually have gotten at least one shot.
Nice.
So we're getting there.
Yeah.
Any day now. My mom got vaccinated. It's also her birthday, so happy birthday, Mom. Well, it is tomorrow, but we're cheating a little bit.
Yeah, that's fine.
And she is joining us. She's always here. She's fun. Well, should we?
Yeah. So what are we talking about today?
I
don't know.
Fun stuff.
There we go.
I bet fun stuff. What does it mean, your way? Can I do it my way?
You can do it your way.
Don't sing.
No.
Someone's going to clip the singing.
Oh, no. What have I done?
Oh, sing again.
No.
Come on.
You don't even know the button.
True.
Do you?
I don't know. Well, from the... I do. Here it is. Clip that.
Oh, no.
Sing.
Oh, no.
Threatening at him with clips. What is my way or your way?
Yeah. Let's talk. So good evening, folks. Good evening. Good. It's afternoon for me. I'm on the East Coast in the Americas. So thank you, Jimmy and Jessica, for having me here. Good to see at least you folks on camera. I so wish I could be there in person, but like we were talking someday soon. So yeah, thank you for joining us here at Coding After Work. And Jimmy and Jessica don't know what they have signed up for. I'm told I have 60 minutes, 90 minutes.
We trust you. We trust you. We know you're good with stuff.
We'll try. Pilen012, good evening. Yeah, good evening, folks. So yeah, let's talk. This is going to be real casual and kind of try to get a lay of the land of where things are with modern desktop development. And this is going to be more of a conversation. Jimmy and Jessica like heckling me, and I'm old. I don't mind being heckled. So let's talk. I have 90 slides for 90 minutes, so we can really get an understanding. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
We are going to time that.
I have like 2 slides, and even that is optional. Let's chat. Yeah. So that's me, folks. I'm Sam. I am a developer advocate at Progress Software. Mostly come from a .NET background. Do just a little bit of JavaScript and web and mobile, just enough to be dangerous. So yeah, that's me. So you can find me anywhere. Yeah. So let's talk about building desktop apps. If I can find my mouse.
And while you're finding your mouse, we just want to mention that you're not here because you work at Progress. We love Progress and we love you separately. So we invited Sam not because he worked for someone who actually sponsors this show. We invited him because of his knowledge. Just to clear that up.
Because the level of awesome.
Yes, exactly.
You think for knowing knowledge. You will wait and see. Wait and see.
Just don't touch your internet connection or kill the browser, and we'll be fine.
Yes. Oh, yes. I'm known to kill the browsers, and then I'm
the
on a
heckling
multiple.
is starting early here.
It is started, as you can see.
Yeah.
No. This
I
is
will be
classic.
good now.
I was at a conference where Jessica was following right after me, and on a multi-monitor setup, and I'm on a Mac here today. When you do Control Q, it kills like all your browser tabs. So I have gotten out of my streams multiple times. That's not the only time that has happened. So I'm a pro at failing. Yeah.
Well, that's good because that's how you learn, right? Yeah. So they say. I'm not sure if I'm there yet.
So one thing that you know for sure when you're getting me is I'm old. Like I'm really old, and I've been doing this for quite some time. I started back with like VB6, and like even after like 20 plus years, like desktop isn't going away. And you look at just the number of enterprises and workflows that depend on desktop apps. So we have to think about how do we build desktop apps today? How can we maybe modernize things that we have built in the past? And how can we mix and match? And I'm talking about this from a .NET developer's perspective, but also keeping in mind that a lot of you also do JavaScript, a lot of you also do mobile. So how can we kind of mix and match? Because unless you're working in a startup, it's unlikely that you're doing just one app, right? Just one desktop app. You're doing other things, right? So I always say, like, look into what other things you are building. Like, is it .NET based? Is it web based? And then ideally, you would like to maybe share some code so you're not like duplicating your efforts across different platforms. So yeah, that's where I come from. And again, when you are building for desktop, in 2021, 2022, what should you be keeping in mind? And here's my 1 minute spiel on all things Windows Desktop. And again, since I'm old, I look at this and I go like, this is liberating. I have so much choice. But I also understand like this is like a lot of folks look at this and they're like, why do I have so much choice? Why is this so confusing? And that's true. So we essentially sometimes have to take a step back and realize like what type of code base do you want to maintain, right? What makes sense for your app? Because there is not one thing that suits everything, right? So it's dependent on what you're trying to do. So if you are wanting to target the Windows desktop, then these are some common things you can do. We started with WinForms back in like 2002 timeframe. Windows Presentation Foundation, WPF, came along, I think, in 2005. So it's been like 15, 16 years of just WPF. UWP was somewhere back in 2012, 2013 maybe. And that's just a universal XAML stack. And then we have WinUI, which is kind of newer. And so that's the first 4. Those are all .NET and XAML stacks. And you can happily do these things today. If you have existing apps, and then before we talk about any of the other, like the mix and matching of things, you really need to ask, like, do I need this? Because for the most part, you might not need it. And it comes down to what's your runtime? What are you running your apps on? And if you are starting out on .NET Framework, or if you have existing apps in .NET Framework, this is a question we get a lot. Is the .NET Framework dying? No, it's not dying. It's going to be fine for the next 10 years. But is it getting a lot of innovation? No, because, again, the innovation is happening on .NET Core and Blazor and .NET MAUI and all kinds of cool things. But you can migrate those things as you need to. If you don't have a need, if your apps are running fine, then just be at ease. You're fine. But then if you have to use some of the newer APIs, newer runtimes, then you can migrate things perfectly fine, because some of these things will run on .NET 5 today. They will run on .NET 6 tomorrow. So things are fine. These desktop apps can be absolutely modern. But if you have other folks on your team doing web stuff, or .NET MAUI stuff or Blazor stuff, right? So that's when you kind of get into, how can I bring some of that into my desktop apps? And then there are lots of ways, actually. There are PWAs. There's Electron, obviously. We can talk about Xamarin.Forms. We can talk about .NET MAUI. And I know all of you love Blazor as well. So we can talk about quite a lot of few things with Blazor. So lots of choices if you want to mix and match. So
basically, you take inventory of your web competence, I guess.
Yeah. What is it that you love doing the most, and what is it that you hate doing the most? Don't do.
Yeah. So for Jimmy, that would be Blazor, and what you hate is JavaScript.
Yep. Sounds about right.
And that's true for most .NET developers, right? Blazor is a great equalizer because it lets you do C# front and back. So what's not to like? And Blazor, while we're talking about this, it's a transition state that we're going through. By the end of this year, you're going to find Blazor is a very welcome citizen on mobile, on desktop as well. So this is a good time to start thinking about Blazor. Yeah. So and then .NET MAUI is coming along as well. So that's all the Windows side of the family. And if you wanted to reach Mac, and of course you can do native Mac with Xcode and Cocoa Pods and Swift. So you can do that all day. But this is, again, from a .NET background. So you can do Electron, you can do Xamarin Mac. And then some of the same things we talk about, like Blazor mobile bindings, .NET MAUI, they will reach Mac as well. So again, if you have customers or enterprises or clients that are looking to have desktop workflows, you don't need to shy away if you are invested in WebStack or if you're doing other .NET things, because your desktop apps can very well coexist with other things, and then you can mix and match, you can share some code.
That's good.
Yeah, that's it. I'm done. I'm out. No, honestly,
so what is Blazor mobile bindings? So how can Jimmy start developing for iOS without feeling so bad?
We'll talk about that. And in the chat room, I also see Avalonia. That's one thing I missed. I should mention that. It's also another open source framework, so I should add that right down here. That's another way. So again, you can see how folks are taking things that are mostly XAML powered and then kind of making it work everywhere else, and that's a good story. So let's start, and let's kind of break things down a little bit, and we'll go from there. So I am going to keep this open just in case we need to come back. So first thing is, let me see if I can open up another browser, new window. Yeah, if you see me doing anything with my keyboard, and if I say things like I'm about to shut things down, just remind me, don't close the browser.
You need to put a red sticker on your Q button.
Yeah. Okay, so let's start with WPF. When did we start? When did we start? I don't know. I'm typing things wrong.
Yeah, Peelan, that's what we're trying to avoid here.
WPF first release. I think it was 2015. And actually talking about Avalonia, it was actually Avalon was the internal code name. So WPF first came along with 2006. So I was a little off. So with .NET Framework 2006 timeframe. So what I'm trying to say is, if you have Windows Forms, or if you have WPF today, your app runs just fine on .NET Framework. Your app runs just fine on .NET Core 3.1. And it runs just fine on .NET 5 as well, because there is this little guy, which is actually very nice. So there's this thing called the .NET Upgrade Assistant. And if you go into this, they kind of walk you through. It's just a CLI tool, and it uses like try-catch and some of the analyzers behind the scenes. It's a try-convert, not try-catch. But you can take a project which is ASP.NET MVC. Let me bump up my fonts a little bit, or WinForms or WPF, and kind of convert that over to run on .NET 5. So if I note that, let's see if I look at maybe their docs. This one here, maybe? Yeah. So again, if you have existing desktop applications, you can install this command line tool. It's a try convert, and it's you can just launch it just like that .NET tool upgrade, and then they walk you through how to upgrade that WPF app onto .NET 5. And it's just a very nice what you see is what you get type thing. They convert the project style to SDK. They change the target framework. They change the NuGet packages. They change the template files, the configuration files, and the end of it. I mean, they can back it up, and then you have a project that runs on .NET 5 and .NET 6 as well. So that's all the existing stuff. Again, nothing much to talk about here because you can do this today. I'm just saying, before we go into Blazor, which is what Jimmy loves us to go into, before we look at .NET MAUI, just keep in mind that your desktop apps are fine. Again, if you're running it on .NET, on the most modern .NET, if you see things like something that Universal Windows Platform has, or if you want to use a modern web browser, you can do all of that from WPF or WinForms. You don't have to jump onto Blazor or MAUI. So just take a good look at modernizing your app, running it on the latest .NET, and then you'll get some benefits out of it. So,
I really hope that you're not listening, because we need to rewrite everything into Blazor mobile bindings. That's what we do.
Of course we do. But that's locally us.
Step away from the notebook. Do not take notes about this.
You know this is recorded, right?
All right. So now let's talk Blazor. And again, if folks, if you're watching and if you're not into Blazor, just I'll give you a high level. It's C#, right? It's the most modern. Where is the? I haven't actually seen the Blazor home page in a while. So let me see what they talk about. Okay, so client-side web apps with C#. So it can run server-side, obviously, but it can also run fully client-side on WebAssembly, where you're shipping .NET DLLs and scaring Jimmy with security concerns. But it's all good. It's all good. This is great. And if you already have JavaScript, then it can actually have an interop bridge. It can talk back and forth with JavaScript and .NET. So this is exciting for .NET devs, clearly for the last 2 to 3 years. But this is getting a lot more love for mobile and desktop as well, because it doesn't need to be just for the web. So let's talk more. And also, I should mention this, since we had it on the slide, right? So we are down here because this is the most exciting part. All of you want to hear about Blazor and .NET MAUI, but keep in mind, we have been doing other things to bring web into desktop for quite some time now, and those things are there. So case in point, progressive web apps. I'll give you an example, and I may have mentioned I worked for Progress Telerik. I'll give you a quick example of a PWA that is nicely done. Just to give you an example, I'm not trying to sell you on any of our controls, which you maybe should look at. But if you look at our Blazor stuff, we have...
That's our job.
Yeah. Thank you for doing that. If you look at some of the sample Blazor apps that we have, almost all of them, this one in particular, if I run this is actually a PWA. So a PWA is a progressive web app. So it has, any web app can be a PWA. It's questionable whether they should, but you utilize some things, you declare some things to the browser to make your app a nicer citizen on mobile or on desktop, right? Now, this being a PWA, you'll notice that I get a little thing up here, so I can actually install this. So next time when I run this, I don't need to look at the Chrome, the Edge. It can just run as a window inside my app, inside my desktop, and it doesn't look like any different from any other desktop app, except it's running entirely through the web stack. And if you, again, do things right, like the things can be quite responsive, right? So it's a nice experience. And then you can uninstall the app. In fact, the latest Windows lets you kind of hook into your app, so you can uninstall the app from the Windows menu. So essentially, the way you do progressive web apps is you write for the web, but you do a few more things. So one of the best ways is our starting point. I mean, there are lots of ways to build a PWA. Google makes a thing called Lighthouse, which is great. Microsoft, this is open source actually, they make a thing called the PWA Builder. So if you have a URL, or you can start from scratch, then they will tell you, like, here are the things you need to do. Like, you need to have an app manifest file. So you declare to the browser, like, these are things my app needs. And then you need, let me do this. Like my blog, which I should give it some love. It's just sitting there neglected. But if I take this and give it a URL and it's going to start testing, it's going to tell me, hey, I don't have an icon, so you cannot like pin me to the home screen very well. I don't have anything. So the key things it's telling you to do is have a service worker. So perhaps you want to use some cache, some offline storage. Perhaps you want to fetch some data while you are online and then cache it. So you can do all of that. That's in JavaScript. So again, if you have a SPA application that's in Angular or React or Blazor, you can make it work on desktop through a PWA. There's nothing stopping you. So just wanted to put that out. Cool. PWAs are good. Again, but I mean, they have some limitations in terms of how native your APIs can get. And you obviously cannot put things like in a store all the time, because like Apple has some restrictions around it. But for the most part, if you're okay with web as a distribution medium, PWAs are quite good. But let's talk about the other thing, and that is, before we get to Blazor, let's also talk about Electron. Now, this is nothing new. Not that Electron.
The other one.
The other one, Electron.js. Okay, so this is open source. It's a cross-platform desktop building tool, and it is to take your web stuff, your JavaScript, your HTML, and CSS, make it work nicely on desktop. And this is battle tested. This has been around for like 10 years now. Right? And some of the heaviest apps that we use throughout the day are actually Electron apps. So think about like VS Code, think about Slack, think about Figma. All of those heavy duty apps are written in Electron. So it definitely works. There's nothing wrong with it. I'll give you the two downsides, but maybe I should show you this. Do you want to see Electron real quick? Because I mean, we can actually take a Blazor app and put it in an Electron shell. So let me pull up Visual Studio on a Mac, which is nice.
We like Visual Studio. We do.
Still crashes probably a couple of times a week. That's nothing compared to the Windows side of it. It's a little more lightweight. It doesn't have all the features. If you're doing Blazor or ASP.NET or Azure or Xamarin, VS for Mac is actually at par with VS on Windows. All right, so let me kind of walk you through. This is there's nothing going on in this this app. It is just a Blazor project that is not WebAssembly. This is just using ASP.NET Core 3.1. It's doing the server-side rendering. So it's file, new project, nothing special about it. It's got the pages, it's got the www root, everything is going as normal. Except in here, I have brought in a NuGet package called electron.net.api, which is the Electron.js NuGet package, just that. So what I have to do is my text big enough? I can bump up the fonts. Can you read?
That's better.
Thank you. Yeah,
perfect.
That's good.
So in here, in my program.cs, all we do is while the app is bootstrapping, we say, hey, web builder, just be ready to use Electron. That's all. And then in startup, we do a quick thing where, so Electron kind of hosts your web apps inside of a window, right? So you have to give it the dimensions of what that window is. So that's what this is. And you can set other properties on the window. Like I'm just setting the height, the width, and it's false for now, and then I show it. So you can set the title of the window and so on, and that's it. And then there's a .NET CLI tool that you write to kind of bootstrap this app, and it drops like a manifest file. And then in your launch settings, instead of just getting IIS Express, you also get this little node that says Electron, so it knows how to start that up. So let me do that. So this is a Blazor app, right? And I can run this inside of a web browser all day long, but I can also run it inside of Electron. So let me make this bigger first. Is that better? Mm-hmm. So here, this project, I think it's sitting in my projects directory. Let me take a look. LS, yes, Blazor in shell. So we're going to go to Blazor in, and I'm Jimmy and Jessica, I'm not looking at the chat room. If there are any questions, please let me know.
Yeah, we'll bring it up.
We'll bring it in.
Okay, so I am in that folder, and then I can do if things work, and some of these are preview bits. No, actually, this one actually is production bits, so it should not work. Things get a little crazy when we go into Blazor land because everything is preview, and
Yeah.
we see things fail left and right sometimes. So if I remember this right, .NET Electronize start. That's a funny application. Okay, so it's doing its thing. Yeah. It's saying, hey, I see that you're running on .NET Core, and eventually, it's doing the npm install, bringing Node.js down. It says I'm running on localhost, so I can pull up the same app on localhost, but now you get this little guy, right? So this is just a full-on desktop app, right? If I didn't tell you, you wouldn't know because it has the little thing here that you can customize. So you can pin this to your dock. Oh, and it works just fine the same way on Windows as well. But this is Blazor. We're just on desktop, exactly what you expect. The counter works and the fetching data, which is local. So this is just Blazor wrapped up in an Electron shell. There's nothing wrong with this, okay? A lot of folks get all hyped up to say Electron is bad. It's not bad. It's just you have to know what you're doing here because there are two things that you're shipping with Electron.js. In your app package, you are shipping a version of Chromium, which is the JavaScript engine that your browser is using, the WebView component that you're using. And you're also shipping part of Node.js. So Electron has a stable environment to bootstrap itself and get working. So that adds a little bit of bloat to your app package. And you have to be a little careful with like memory and resource usage. Like this is something like VS Code does really well. It is a web app. In fact, when you look at like Visual Studio on the web, it's using exactly the same code as that VS Code does. It's just very good at managing the memory footprint. So it doesn't spin up like 1,000 Chrome processes. It's very careful. So that's the thing. And I wrote this up, and actually the Electron team reached out to me saying like, hey, don't hate us so much. We are not that bad. I'll show you this. I think I can find it if I search for Blazor on desktop, maybe. Yeah, there we go. So I can drop a link to this if folks want. Where's the browser window?
What is going on in the back end in this case? Is that running Blazor server? And
it's running Blazor server, yeah.
So it's SignalR connections back and forth?
Yes. But except like there's no client. The client is literally sitting on the same app that you are on. Okay, why can I not post comments? Can I post? Or maybe not. Oh, maybe not. Anyway, so...
you should be able to on Twitch, though.
I should be able to on Twitch, but that's a different machine, so I have to copy this URL.
Oh, there you go. But you can post it in our chat if you on StreamYard, and I can show it. I can do it.
True. I can do a private chat.
You can do a relay.
Yeah, there you go. I'm lazy. But anyway, so I wrote this up. And the Electron team reached out to me to say, hey, just know that we can do a few more things that you cannot if you're doing the lightweight WebView stuff. So I say a few things right out here. So Electron apps give you like the direct file system access. You can run or talk to processes outside of your sandbox. You can have a kiosk mode. You can do system screen recording. You can do system tray. So this is like very involved. Like if you really want all of this richness in your desktop apps, then Electron makes a lot of sense. But if you didn't care for this, then Electron is a little heavy-handed. And that's the thing that people talk about when they say Electron is heavy, because it ships a bunch of things with your app, right? So that's just Electron. Jimmy, any other things you had in mind?
Maybe we could talk about, I see that you wrote WebView as well. What's up with WebView?
Yeah, the WebView part is the one that's coming up. So let's talk about that. So this is the Electron way. And again, you can do this. It's battle tested. And this is production ready. The WebView stuff, it's cooking. It's not quite ready yet. So
that's the price we have to pay if you want to be in the forefront, right?
Right. You're bleeding edge here.
Yeah.
So while this is coming up, this is the other thing that I'm about to show you. So let's close down these things. And if I do a search on Blazor mobile bindings, that's what I'm showing you. So I can do this, and I can copy this, and I can post it to you. So we can relay again. There you go. So that's what I'm talking about. This is the Blazor mobile bindings thing, and it's exciting because, again, as a .NET developer, maybe you want to write Blazor for web stuff, and now you can bring that to mobile and to desktop, right? So this is not using Chromium. This is not shipping Node.js. It is still Blazor on server side. There's no WebAssembly here. But what it is using right now is a little bit of Xamarin.Forms magic, but in future, you're going to see a little bit of .NET MAUI magic that kind of bootstraps this application. So again, take a look at this. This you can actually do in two ways. The getting started experience that they have, because there are two ways of doing this. And this is called mobile Blazor bindings. Get the template. It's not a Visual Studio template yet, but it's still .NET, same idea. So you can do a straight up native app with Blazor mobile bindings, in which case you are literally rendering native elements on iOS or Android or desktop, or you can do a hybrid, which is the more popular one, where you are kind of mixing and matching some hybrid, some native, and some web stuff, right? So if you do this and then walk through, they kind of walk you through building the first hybrid app. That's the one that I'm showing you. This is the type of app that I'm showing you. So you say Blazor hybrid, .NET new Blazor hybrid. It will just spit out an app that you can close down your command line or your PowerShell, whatever you're using, and then open the same app in Visual Studio, because that's what it just does. It creates 4 or 5 projects for you. So let me show you what this does. So in here, me being on a Mac, I've actually deleted 2 of the projects because I can't run them. So you get Blazor Chat. Oh, and I should show you this and kind of maybe make you folks a little jealous. If you are on Windows, you can't do this, but I can on a Mac. So on a Windows, like you can in Visual Studio, you can just kind of zoom in on the text, but you cannot zoom in on the Solution Explorer, right? But what's this? I can here. I can do Command++. See that? Aha.
That is actually so nice.
I can do that on a Mac. I don't know why Windows have, or maybe they already do have it. I don't know. But
not that I know of.
They do have a plugin, I believe, that is called Presenter Mode that will enlarge the font, but I don't think not that nice. Though.
No, that was smooth.
I'll give you that.
Yeah. 1 point for Mac.
I will pull up Windows in just a second if my VM cooperates, because there are some days my VM is like, nope, not happening. But we'll see. So when you do that .NET new Blazor hybrid, you actually get 5 projects. So this one's called Blazor Chat, and why it's Chat, I'll show you that in a second. But you get a .NET standard library. That's the shared project. And then you get an iOS project, you get a macOS project, you get a Windows project, and you get an Android project, right? I don't have the Android SDK, so I've taken that out, and I cannot run a Windows project on a Mac, but I'll show you the same project on Windows. But this is kind of taking Blazor and just putting it inside of a web view and putting it on mobile and on other platforms. So let's start with the common thing here, which is main.razor. We actually changed how a Xamarin.Forms app kind of bootstrap just to kind of cater to folks like Jimmy who like Blazor. So everything is very Blazor-ish here. So you'll notice that when my app.cs, which is how the app starts up, this is not the Xamarin.Forms way of starting up the app. And in fact, .NET MAUI is kind of borrowing this. So this will be the ASP.NET and Blazor and the .NET MAUI way of starting up your application. So this is the iHost builder. Nothing fancy going on here. You still have the start, sleep, resume for mobile apps, but that's how your app starts out, and everything is a component. Just like in Blazor, all we do is main page. We just set a content page, and then everything is a component. So we have a component called main. So if you look at the main component here, you see a few things that are interesting. First thing, everything here is pretty much what Xamarin.Forms will give you right now. So these are Xamarin.Forms elements, content view, a stack layout, a label or a button. So these are actually native UI elements. And then you have this thing called the Blazor WebView, which is the WebView shell, inside of which we're going to plug in our Blazor application, right? So let me go ahead and run this just to kind of make the point of what we are talking about. And I'm running the macOS project. We can run the same project on iOS. So you get the same app, exactly pretty much the same as we saw with Electron here, except you get like two other things. You see that label that says hello world, and you see the button, and it has increment counter. So this label, this button, and this little stack layout, that's all native, right? This is a hybrid app. So it's some parts of it are native, and then some parts of it are hybrid. And then everything down below, which is the classic Blazor look, that is all Blazor. And that's coming from my Blazor application, which is rendering from inside this Blazor WebView as a part of that WebUI.app. So that's my Blazor app. So you can take your entire Blazor application that you have for web and just like shove it in the web.ui folder, and it just starts working with a few caveats. But for the most part, it works, and everything like your pages are right here. Your shared directories, your CSS, your JavaScript, they can all live in www.root. So this thing absolutely works. And what is nice is this being hybrid, you can actually share some components between the native and the hybrid land. So the counter in particular, let me see where the counter is. It has a counter state, which is actually the .NET component here. We can share that. So here is my counter, and I can increment that here from native code, but I can also come down here in Blazor code, and you see that it shares, right? I can keep incrementing that.
That's nice.
Yeah, so now you're talking Blazor talking to .NET natively, and since this is kind of bootstrapped with Xamarin.Forms, you can also use things like Xamarin Essentials. So if you needed to use the camera or any other device-specific APIs, you can do that because it's just all C# and it's right there for you, ready to use. Make sense so far?
So there might be that you need to fire up the Mac we have. Well, you have. I'm innocent in that department.
Might be.
Might be. You can just. Did you hear what he said? You can just take your application and shove it in one of those folders.
Yeah.
And I can enlarge the font on the Solution Explorer.
That is true. So I can read it.
So what is going on in the back end here? I'm assuming that we're not running some kind of server and we're using SignalR in this case?
No. Well, I mean, it is the same idea. This is a Blazor server-side project, except like there is no client to push this over to SignalR. It's just all right there. The client and the server are just all right there. But performance is better because you're running on the full .NET framework here as compared to WebAssembly. And again, speaking of SignalR, the reason why I called it chat, let me show you that real quick, and then we'll dive into some more code. So I do have a chat room here. But before I go into that, let me show you. So SignalR is real-time communication. It's great for that. That's what Blazor uses behind the scenes if you're doing server-side. I think I had a bookmark. Let me see if it's still up. This is hosted on Azure, and some days Azure is like, I don't know who you are, dude. So you can
we know all about that.
Yeah. Okay. Now this is not protected, so I'll post a link. So you can tinker if you want. And there's no filter, there's no authentication, so be gentle, keep it friendly. But here you can say Chrome says hello, right? And send. So this is SignalR, it's real time right there. But then if I go over here to the Blazor chat room, which also is using SignalR now, so now I can say things like Blazor on Mac says hi, send. It's right there. You see that, how instantaneous that is? So now you have desktop, and Alex says hi. Hey, Alex. So
that's fast.
That is fast. So Stacy Cashmore, maybe? Say hey there.
Yeah.
So you have desktop and you have web kind of talking to each other, and it's fun. And before I maybe show you Flutter, don't bring up Flutter. That's a whole other story. But let's keep this going. Let me show you one more thing here, okay? I can stop this, and while this is going, I'm going to bring up Parallels, just to kind of show you the same project in a Windows world. Because it's nice that what it's using is web views, little lightweight web views to host your Blazor application, and that web view is catering to whichever platform that you are on. So on a Mac, it's using what's called the WK WebView. It's a Safari thing, while on Windows, it's going to use WebView 2, which is the most latest, like a Chrome, like an Edge WebView that's using like Chromium engine under the covers. So we'll give it a second for my Windows machine to boot up, and let's pull up Visual Studio here. And I'll keep the browser open here. Yeah, let's look at the same app.
Shout out to Free Young. Why am I saying it in English when I know he's Swedish? For the subscription. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
We really appreciate it.
How do you say Free Young in Swedish?
I think it's short for his first and last name, right? I suspect.
Yeah.
Yeah. I according to Jimmy, I don't speak Swedish, so I think he has to say it, because I will say it in Danish.
Please do.
Freja Jung.
There you go.
Freja Jung.
I didn't sound like that, do I?
Yep.
All right. Let's see if my Visual Studio will wake up here.
Oh, thank you, Frederick. Thank you. He said it sounded good. That's good. Thank
Liar.
you.
Oh, did I say that out loud? I'm sorry.
You know I can clip this.
Okay, folks. So same app, same exact app, right? So here I'm running it on Windows. So I have taken down the Mac and the iOS, but same exact Blazor app now running on Windows. So I can come down here on this chat room and I can say Blazor on Windows. Says, oh my God, this might work, or it'll be classic fails. I said OMG, and yep, right there. See that? Right. So that's how quick this is, because this is SignalR. It doesn't care, and this is Azure hosted, so it can talk across boundaries. So this is nice, right? So let's talk about what's happening. Yeah, sorry.
It's kind of mind blowing how you can take your one application and just there you go. It's on all platforms.
But
and I think your Mac is making that sound again. So it kind of sounds like you're in the plane now.
Oh yeah, you should change the background to the plane again.
It's hurting because I gave it Visual Studio and a VM to run. So it's like, boy. All right.
Yeah.
Let me show you.
So for those of you who doesn't know, he has a really great widescreen screen. Well, obviously, that kicks on his fans.
Yeah.
When it's working a little.
You can't put a price on pixels. Pixels.
I know. We have to pay somewhere.
Yeah. So let's take a look at what happened here with Mac. This is a little too big now. Okay. So if I look at the Mac project, if I look at app delegate file. So what's going on here is this is app.get. So this is classic what's kind of Xamarin Mac, the Mac renderers for Xamarin.Forms. So here you'll see that we are actually initializing Xamarin.Forms right now. And we are utilizing the Mac renderers that can take XAML, and in this case, like the XAML that came from like this type of stuff and the Blazor WebView, and it can render that on a Mac. So we are doing that, and all we are doing is we are newing up a new window, and we are saying title application, set a few properties on it, the width and the height, and then we launch it, right? And that's it. So now it's a native window, but we are letting Xamarin.Forms paint the whole window through our stuff. And in my main.razor, if I like take out all of like this stuff, if I take that out, then all you're left with is just the Blazor WebView. And then it's literally just the Blazor app running inside of your desktop, just the way you envision. Now, if I go look at the Windows side of things, here in the Windows project, let me see, app.cs, where is that at? Yeah, so this one also does the forms in it, but here it's using a system.windows application, right? So it's just how it's loading up, and it's actually using the Xamarin.Forms platform WPF renderer. So Mac renderers versus WPF renderers. Now this, as we speak, is actually being worked on. So they want to bring in MAUI. So you're not using Xamarin.Forms to kind of bootstrap your application, but that's what it is doing right now. Now, what is a little fun, and I saw somebody else do this demo, and I had to bring it because it was just like so much fun to look at. So let me close this one down so I can give my Mac a little bit of a breather. I don't need this one.
Yeah, we have a suggestion that you're actually near the kitchen ceiling fan or something, or you're hovering over there.
Okay, let's see. Where is this stuff? Let me take a look. So this is my main razor. Nothing changed here. But if I look at the index.razor page, yeah, this is where I had it. So this is the index.razor. This is Blazor, but just we're going to render this page in our desktop application. So I saw somebody do this demo, and I borrowed it because it's just hilarious what this is. So since this is running on desktop, it is a native app, right? And you have some extra things that you don't have access to if you are running it in a PWA or other type of shell. This is a native app. So I can actually use system.io, and let me see if I can bump this up a little bit more so you can read this better. 200%, maybe that's too big. We'll stick with that. So here we are saying, here's a button click. It's a Blazor button that we're rendering to say, I need to do something native. Now, what is the native thing? The most native thing you can do is open up Notepad, right? It's on Windows. And I can actually also do this on a Mac. I can open up TextEdit. So here's what I'm doing. I'm using some very basic .NET APIs to say, give me a path as just a temporary file name, and I'm going to write something in that file name, enter something. And I didn't actually know that you could do this, but from your .NET code, like system diagnosis process, you can actually start up Notepad and you can give it a link to that file. And then we're going to wait for that file to exit, and then we're going to read out of that file, right? So take a look at this, if it works again. So my app comes up. This is all Blazor, right? And there's a button, do something native. So I click on that. Notepad comes up, right? That's the temporary file name that it just auto-assigned. Enter something. So we're going to say Jimmy and Jessica are great. Not great. Geralt. Okay, whatever.
Close enough.
Close enough. I'm going to close this, right? Do you want to save it? Yeah, I think we do want to save it right there. And it comes back in the app and says, Jimmy and Jessica are Geralt, right? And the reason it's doing that is because of .NET APIs can read files, and it can read memory. It can go a little bit out of process to go do things with your other desktop thingies, right? So I'm just giving you a hint that like these apps are actually native. So although you're doing full-fledged Blazor stuff here, you don't need to be in the web sandbox. You can do some other stuff, if that makes sense.
The really cool thing here is that you're actually in the web part, not the
exactly,
not the mobile binding part.
Exactly. I'm on
really
index.razor.
cool.
I am absolutely in Blazor code, and I can write some .NET stuff to interact with other things on my desktop. So I thought this
that
was
is
cool.
pretty cool.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's
now,
really...
keep in mind, like while you can do that, Blazor mobile bindings, this is very cool. you may not always want to do this, right? Because what if a common question is like, I already have a WPF app, or I already have a WinForms app. Can I not use any of this stuff? And the answer is yes, but you have to jump through a few hoops to do that, right? So let me show you this. We can open up, I shouldn't have closed Visual Studio. We'll open it up again. So let's see if I can show you this one here, WebView on WPF. So let's just say you have a straight up desktop application, WinForms or WPF, doesn't matter. You have an existing app, and maybe you wrote up a Blazor app that's internal, that's sitting somewhere else, and you just want to bring that in. So you can do that actually. So all I'm doing here is in my references, there is, do you want me to install Visual Studio Update on the fly? I can do that. I've actually done that on my streams. Like, yeah.
You have an old version of Visual Studio. What's up with that? No, we need we need to update.
You did that on your stream. How long did it take?
It wasn't too bad. I actually have a very fast internet connection. I lucked out. We are in a new home, and they have kind of real fiber optics laid out on the ground. So my connection speed is actually really good. So I've installed Dotnet. Nowadays, like Dotnet is like a folder. It's just like in a minute, which is amazing. But I've installed Visual Studio tools on the fly on Steam. So what's the worst that can happen? So in here, there's a little NuGet package. It says Microsoft.web.webview2. So all that it does is, like, if you have an old school WPF or a WinForms app, you just don't have these runtimes. You don't have XAML islands. You don't have WebView 2. Maybe you're like taking small steps to modernize your app. So this is one of those little steps. Now it's pretty dumb what I'm doing here, but just to kind of prove, no, don't do that. It's trying to go to Azure. So what I've done here with that WebView 2, well, nothing here. It's just initialized component. But if I look at my XAML, which is the main window of my WPF app, all I'm doing here is, instead of a grid, which is what it starts out being, I do have that reference to that WebView to WPF. I'm putting in a doc, and I'm saying WebView 2, just giving it a name, and then setting a source, right, to Microsoft.com or whatever it is. So when I run this, if it works, so you have a WPF app. You see that? This is truly a WPF app. There's nothing fancy going on. You have that old school icon from like 15 years back. You can close it. You can minimize it or maximize it. But the entire surface area is now taken over by this WebView, which is literally loading up Microsoft.com. So again, if you have a Blazor app that's completely kind of isolated and it works just fine on the web, you can host it in a WPF app. There's nothing stopping you, and you don't. You can actually do a little bit more than just hosting it. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, this thing is still up. So let's see. WebView 2 on. Let me know, Jimmy and Jessica, if I'm boring you to death, and then I'll stop.
Not a chance. Well, we'll let you know, but it's not a chance you are.
Okay, let's see if this is the one. Install WebView 2 SDK. You don't need to install an SDK, actually. It's just a NuGet package. I don't know why to say it. So you can do all of that, and then you can navigate, and then at some point, you can actually interact with it. So scripting, this is what I was trying to get to. So you can actually interact with stuff that the WebView 2 is loading with your .NET code, right? So like this one's loading up like a alert, and you can actually work with that. You can communicate with .NET and a little bit of that WebView code. So it's not just a matter of just hosting it or loading it. You can actually do a little bit more. So take a look at this. Again, do a search like I did on like WebView 2 on WPF. Same way with WinForms, it just works the same way. WebView 2 is just a nice modern kind of an edge shell to render your web stuff on. Now, maybe you don't want to do this. Maybe this is like where you are literally hosting another Blazor app. Maybe you don't want to do this. Another way of doing this is actually building this in your WPF app itself. And this is sort of new, so it's got some rough edges. Let's see, which one is that? Blazor WebView on WPF. So what I'm showing you here is, I think I had this bookmarked actually. This one here. So this is running on .NET 6 Preview 3. So kind of leading edge. They are actually not doing any more previews until build, which is coming up later this month. So .NET 6 had preview 1, preview 2, and the last one we saw was preview 3. And with preview 3, you had .NET MAUI running on preview 3. You had ASP.NET Core running on preview 3, and Blazor and all of that stuff. So Dan Roth wrote up the Blazor WebView in WPF and WinForms. So this is where you don't have to do the Blazor mobile bindings. It's utilizing exactly the same thing that Blazor mobile bindings does, but except you don't have to utilize .NET MAUI or Xamarin to kind of bootstrap your app. What if you already had a WPF app or a WinForms application and you just want to stick that web view in there, write Blazor? So that's what they're talking about here. So take a look at this. And if I can show you this working, maybe. I hid away my Solution Explorer. How do I bring that back? View Solution Explorer. There we go. Okay, so here, my dependencies, I don't know why I have exclamation marks. It's getting a little annoyed at me, maybe. But here, it is still using the WebView WPF. So it's not quite pulling down just the WebView. It's doing a little bit more. So what I did was I started a WPF app, and I actually ran the .NET Upgrade Assistant on this to make it run on .NET 5, because on .NET 6, you cannot like new up a WPF app. At this point, it's just not, tooling is just not there yet. But what you get is like the CS proj kind of looks like this. When you run the .NET Upgrade Assistant, I'll move this away. So you'll see that it ran the .NET Upgrade Assistant. It made things an SDK style project. And then all it did was it said Net 6. Instead of Net 6, it says Net 5.0 on Windows. So it's running on .NET 5. And then I have .NET 6 preview bits installed. I could just switch it to 6 and it just works, right? So I will show you really quick. And here I don't know how to make things zoomed in much better here. So what's the thing? I can do list dash SDKs, I think. So I don't know if you can see it. Can I do this? Oh, I actually can. No, I cannot. I'm trying to zoom in and it doesn't zoom. Oh, too much.
Oh,
too much zoom.
It did.
Too much zoom. Okay. All right. You see that? It is running on 6.0 preview 3, right? That's the one I'm running it on. So with that runtime, I can make this WPF app run on .NET 6, and I have to do a few more things to it. So for example, in here, I'm trying to embed a Blazor WebView. So if we look at my main Windows XAML, let's see, come back Visual Studio, there it is. So here I am directly putting in the Blazor WebView, and I'm, instead of loading up a web page, I'm saying, here, go load up these components. So the root component, I'm just loading it up, and it's loading up the counter component. So this is just kind of classic web, as you do with the web Blazor project. You bring in things in the web UI project, and you just stick them in there. This one has the counter component. You have to do a few more things to it. There's a counter.razor, which is actually the counter component. IntelliSense, you can throw that out of the window. This is all very new stuff. It doesn't quite work. And you have to kind of initialize the counter, because WPF runtime doesn't find the counter component unless you initialize it. But if I run this, and if things work, and sometimes they don't, this is preview bits. Okay, looks like it did work. So now you have a straight up WPF project. There is no Blazor mobile bindings here. All we are doing is we are sticking that web view in it, and this is a Blazor counter, right? So I can click on this, and it's working, right? So you can do this right now with WinForms, with WPF, and this story is going to keep getting better once we kind of go towards the end of November. And since we are talking about November, let me go back to Mac OS here for a second. So you folks have known about .NET MAUI.
Yep.
This is the evolution of Xamarin.Forms. And why am I talking about this? Because this has a very strong kind of implications for desktop, because Xamarin.Forms has let you build UWP apps in the past and Mac apps. You just never had a lot of confidence. But now they're trying to do it right, because now they're kind of relying on top of WinUI 3 for Windows and Mac Catalyst for reaching macOS. So you can actually start here They have put out some samples here. This is the latest on .NET Preview 6, so you can, let me put this out here. So this works on iOS, Android, and Windows, and Mac. Right now, this has got nothing to do with Blazor. I mean, Blazor is going to use eventually how .NET MAUI bootstraps it, but this is straight up .NET MAUI. So XAML, C#, it's all welcome, and it just works here. So I have downloaded this thing. So you can download and then fork this thing. So I have that, and it's sitting right here in this repo here, Net6 Mobile Main 3, because like it's Preview 3. So let me run this. So I'll go back in here. And let me go to, I may have lost Jimmy here because like I Blazor, but it's all good.
We're excited about .NET MAUI as well.
Yeah.
Just not as excited, but still excited.
All right, now this, sometimes it doesn't work, so we'll see if it does. If not, I'll just show you the code. Main 3, okay. And I have to look this up because they have a special way. You have to get some preview installers in place for iOS, for Android. You see for Mac, it's like the app kit thing. Let me bump this up. And then Mac Catalyst. Mac Catalyst is Apple's approved way of running. Apple has a similar problem. Everybody wants to build for iOS, which is your iPads and your iPhones. Nobody wants to build for the Mac desktop store. So they're trying to get, they are trying to get your iPad apps to run on macOS desktop, and their way is Catalyst, which is nice because they're mixing and matching some AppKit with UIKit. They let you have some of the APIs and more real estate for your apps. So .NET MAUI actually utilizes that. So you have to just do a .NET build, but the TFM, which is the target framework, you do need to specify Net6 because otherwise it doesn't know what to do. So let's see if this will work actually.
What I really like about .NET MAUI is that earlier, if you want to target Windows, you would use UWP. If you targeting anything else, you would use Xamarin.Forms. So now, finally, we're getting one platform that can reach them all.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. So this is a Mac desktop app. I don't know why they have the heart signs off to the left. Somebody didn't do a job of like centering it. But like you get entry points, you get images and switches, and there's the .NET bot little guy here. So this is a Mac desktop application, but it's actually built on top of .NET MAUI with Catalyst, right? And I can launch the same app on Windows with WinUI 3, and it works the same way. Because what it is doing is, let me see, where am I? I'm inside the project, right? Yeah, I am inside. So I can do code dot, bring up VS Code. Let's see if it gets all confused. No, it's actually fine. So this is what .NET MAUI is throwing your way right now. So there is Hello iOS, which is the native iOS application. What? No. I don't want Java anywhere. Sure, I can give
Abort.
you abort. I don't know why it came up. And then you have...
it's because you said bad things about the store earlier.
Then
I'm going to get him.
Yeah. You have Hello Android, but then the thing that you care about, there is also a little bit of F# that they're working on, but then you get into Hello WinUI 3, so they can actually run on Project Reunion 0.5, which is still not, it's production ready, but this is the consistent way of building a Windows application, and it runs on WinUI 3. And then you have Hello MAUI, which is actually giving you Android, iOS, Mac Catalyst, and so on. So if I look at any of this stuff here, like what we just rendered, this is going to be all too small, but we can bump up the fonts here. Hold on. Everything is going off screen because you see some of my dialogues are off the screen. What's going on there? And I can minimize this somewhat. Okay, so you have the stack layout, you have the label, the buttons, that's the image, that's the cute .NET bot. So this is all XAML. This is all XAML and C#, and it works on iOS. What else was here? Let's see, main page XAML.cs. There is nothing going on button clicked. It just says click counter. And then on the startup, this is kind of using that app builder, kind of the iHost builder type model that Blazor uses to kind of launch and bootstrap your Xamarin applications. So this is a MAUI application that's running on .NET 6 Preview 3, and it's rendering on iOS, Android, WinUI 3, and Mac with Mac Catalyst. So again, like 2 more ways of targeting the desktop if you wanted to. So yeah, these are exciting times, because I mean, if you like, here's what I will say: like, choose your poison. Choose what you really want to do. If you want to do straight up .NET and WPF or WinForms, then be at it, because no one's taking that away. Your cheese isn't being moved. You can run WPF and WinForms on .NET 5, .NET 6, and you can use XAML islands. You can use WebView, like we talked about. You can embed things in it, and you can have ink support. You can have touch support. You can have latest WebView. So it is as, like, desktop apps can be as modern as you want them to be. But then beyond that, if you want to live on the bleeding edge, then look at either Blazor or look at .NET MAUI, and there's going to be some overlap between those two. So where were we? Do we still have this here? Yeah, so this is what I was talking about. So again, if you want to go Electron route, if you want that deep integration with your desktop applications, then go look at Electron. It will ship your Blazor applications nicely, or Angular, or React, any other web stuff. It will do that. But Blazor mobile bindings is what's going to grow up, and they're already calling it Blazor hybrid apps on desktop and on iOS or Android. And then .NET MAUI is what's going to power that. So these are exciting times, because now we have multiple ways of building for desktop, and we can bring in some of the latest and newest exciting technologies to build desktop apps. So I think these are good and exciting times for .NET and desktop developers.
Yeah, and I like that you can take whatever you're good at, or that you want to try out, like Blazor mobile bindings. And you can also take whatever existing stuff you have in WinForms or WPF and just make it work. I like that.
Yeah. And Jimmy, you kind of mentioned UWP. There's been a lot of like debate, like, is UWP dying? And no, it's not. But again, like the same way with .NET Framework, let me actually close down Windows. So give me a second here. It is still an i9 processor with like 16 gigs of RAM, but it still like feels the heat that a VM generates. And then you have Docker, then you have Kubernetes, and then you have IoTs and AR, VR, and your poor computer is like, give me a break. All right, my Windows machine is gone. So let me talk about this for a second, okay? So let me do a search on WinUI 3, I think. We can start there. I think they had a nice graphic right here, Windows UI. So this is what I'm talking about. So WinUI 2 was actually a very different thing. And this is like Microsoft, with all of their engineering brilliance and marketing power, they do sometimes end up with some mixed messaging, and it's up to the community to make sense of it. So they use the word WinUI way too closely for two very different things. So WinUI 2 started out being this abstractions, because they want to separate UWP apps from the Windows updates, right? So you don't want to be tied to that. So they're trying to go one level up, and it's meant for UWP apps. It gives you those controls, those styles, and the rendering. And Win32 is what is WPF and WinForms. You can do XAML islands between the two, and that's where things started out with. And then WinUI 3 is a complete departure. The WinUI 3 goes one level up. It's a full UX stack now. You can see like they have brought in UI composition, UI input. So it runs on Win32 and UWP. So this little green box isn't going away. It's just that if you are starting a new Windows desktop application today, you probably don't want to do it on UWP, because you get the same benefits by doing it on WinUI 3, and you get some more things. So why would you not, right? Because then your app runs on Win32, then your app can run on Xbox and HoloLens and so on. But it doesn't run yet. It's just very early days, but it will. This stack is also very mature. You get all of the UI that you want. You get the community, folks like us, Telerik, building UI suites. So again, hardcore Windows development with WinForms, WPF, or WinUI 3, that is here to stay. And you have a rich ecosystem. You have all the ammunition to go build apps. It's just that if you want to look at Blazor or MAUI, then you have to do a little bit of mix and match of the two. Make sense?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So
And I
let me
think
ask you-
why you didn't like, well, didn't like is a lie, really, UWP. Why you had a grudge against it?
Why I didn't? I loved UWP.
Yeah, I know, but
I still
think,
do.
I think it goes back to what Sam said about Microsoft's mixed message, because they said it was a universal platform. It's cross-platform, but only for this.
within Windows.
Yeah, exactly. And I think
just
that
Windows.
what we heard what we wanted to hear. We heard Xamarin,
Yeah, so
I think. So that's on us, I guess.
no. So and this was the kind of the tricky part for Xamarin, because Xamarin was always meant for iOS and Android. That's kind of how they started. So that was given that they worked on iOS or Android. But how did Xamarin.Forms applications work on Windows? Well, they started out doing UWP, and it was a rough road because things didn't just work. They didn't have the right SDKs. They didn't work as closely with the Dotnet and the UWP teams. So it was just never a very confident experience, and they're trying to fix that. So they're now going to depend entirely on WinUI 3 with .NET MAUI. So you have the latest Windows stack rendering your application on Windows. So that should give you more confidence. So,
that's perfect.
I have nothing against UWP. It's just that if you're starting up a new project today, you should probably look at WinUI instead of UWP because you're running on top of UWP. You're a little like one level abstracted up, and you can also reach Win32. So why not?
Yeah.
So this is my. No, sorry, go on, Jimmy.
You mentioned that we're probably not going to see any more previews until build. What are we expecting at build?
I don't know.
Speculate.
If I were to bet, like this, what we just talked about, this is a good story, right? And I think Microsoft wants to push on this Blazor hybrid story because it's like, think about this. If you are an enterprise who has a 15-year-old WPF project, right, and you are suddenly thinking about modernizing your applications, then this is a good story, because you are going to get developers who are excited about Blazor, and you get to write stuff that is already WPF. You just like shove things into either a WebView, or you use the Blazor mobile bindings type thing for like full access. Either way, this is a good way to kind of, if you wanted to get your investments off from pure WPF, this is a good way. So I think between now and like November, Microsoft, if I were to make decisions, I would push for Blazor hybrid because it's a good story.
And you get, if you already have C# developers, the threshold is basically nothing.
Yeah, exactly. You already know, and hopefully, like this comes back to how we kind of architect our apps, right? So if we are careful with our business logic being in a separate project or in a separate like .NET standard library, then you're already taking the good steps. Like you're already architecting your apps. So even like between WPF or ASP.NET or Blazor, you can start sharing some of that code. But now we're talking about sharing not just business logic, but also some UI between your web app and the same application that can now be shoved inside of a desktop application. And it's all C# developers. And I have been in a boat where I did COBOL for a couple of years. And you don't want to be in a place as a developer where you have that symbiotic thing where your enterprise depends on you to maintain an app that was written 15 years back. So you didn't, they can't lose you and you can't lose them because you are not wanting to learn something new. So it's not a good place to be. So I think Microsoft wants you to have confidence. Like if you want to write XAML and C#, you can run them on .NET 6 tomorrow. But if you want to do Blazor, you can bring that in as well. So choose your poison.
Yeah.
We recently at work, we changed back office system. So everything is I work at a bank, so everything has a back office system. And we got the opportunity to scrap everything old, basically. Not everything, but close to everything. So we're running Blazor, Blazor server. We're running containers. We have .NET 5 all the way. So we had we were kind of excited about this back office change because now we can do it right. We had a lot of legacy apps, things we really didn't know what it does, and now we could just remove, file new, everything new.
And you guys ran Blazor in production 8 days after they announced the beta.
No, after the release.
The release,
it was
8 days. 8 days after it was in production.
We did tinker with it, but we didn't release it until it was 8 days after.
It's
that's hardcore. But again, the reality is, like, maybe, Jimmy, you had an opportunity to do this, but for a lot of enterprises, it's ROI. Like, they cannot invest so much to upgrade all of their apps, right? So maybe some of this gives them like baby steps. Like, you don't have to do this. Like, enterprises are classically slow in adopting tech because they want things to be stable before they jump onto this. So if you look at all of this stuff, maybe 2 years from now, you give folks a little time to be able to like slowly upgrade and migrate their apps, just slowly bring in any of the newer stuff that they want to use. So like for enterprises, this would be nice to have like that way of kind of mixing and matching different tech and not having to kind of jump all in and migrate the whole app in one go.
Yeah, that's the way to go. But you guys did do it gradually in the beginning.
Yeah, and we still do because we have a really big CRM system and that hasn't migrated all the way to Blazor just yet. And that's a nice thing with Blazor Server, that you can actually just bring in parts of the website and migrate those.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and then Blazor Server is utilizing SignalR, like we just looked at with the chat thing under the covers. You don't even see it. It is very fast.
Yeah,
like
it's so fast.
Yeah, for like enterprise apps, like you don't even bat a lid. It is just so fast. And
didn't you get a report that they didn't see the loading page, so something must be wrong? Like, no, you're just used to see it the slow way.
It was so fast that they assumed nothing happened.
Yeah.
Every time I sit down and I work, we did an episode of Coding After Work where we implemented a chat with SignalR. And every time I use SignalR, I get so angry because it's so simple, it's so few steps, it's so fast, and you can do so many things. It's too easy.
What's the catch?
Yeah, exactly. There must be something I'm missing. Where are those 200 lines of code that I'm not writing?
Yeah, for Blazor, actually, you don't have much of a catch. I had started working with SignalR back in 2013 timeframe, because this Jimmy, you might remember, like David Fowler and Damien Edwards, like they were. So the story is they were doing some document collaboration. I think it was on Google, and it sucked, and they didn't like it, so they just thought about doing it themselves. So that's the kind of the birth of the first SignalR. And it was all like JavaScript. And then if you remember, like when ASP.NET Core was being reinvented, they actually did not have SignalR for like 2 years, 2+ years actually, because there were other things that are of priority, and now it's back, and now it's just so easy in Blazor. With SignalR, like the catch sometimes is like, and again, you don't have that problem with Blazor because they do it on their own, but it's in the hosting. Like if you put a lot of SignalR hosting behind like a server farm, and you have like load balancers, then you have to be a little careful, like how the hubs are communicating between each other. Do you know of all of the clients? And that's when you use like Redis backplanes, or you go to Azure SignalR service. But those are some of the complexities that you don't have because it's all done for you in Blazor server side. Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of what I had. If you are starting up a desktop project, I kind of started out saying, like, I'm old, so I have seen things, right? So, yeah.
Well, obviously, you did mention COBOL.
Yeah, let me bring this window so I'm not looking down at my other monitor. I can look at you straight. Yeah, so my advice stays the same. Look into, and actually, I'm just noticing this, like, you have Jessica's head right under Jimmy's.
Yes,
and you have
it's inverted.
Yeah,
we have noticed.
Yeah, we have noticed. I
you
mean,
could,
it's
like,
an
stand
easy
on either
switch.
side. It's an easy switch if you just stand on either side.
Yeah, and I just now feel like an idiot, complete idiot, because
No, I'm just
I
looking at
put
you.
the faces there, and what's going on in my mind is, well, I have my computer on this side, and Jimmy has his on that side, and we can't switch that really because we have it all set up. I can just switch the graphics.
No, then we would look outwards.
You know, it just
Yeah,
it
well,
just
we
shows-
could flip them.
But then we would look.
So
like
we just remove
mirror.
it. Use the other one. We have more.
I think it just,
We have the
shows-
one with just ones and zeros.
It shows your bond, like you're just happy with the other person's face right next to you.
Who want to look at themselves?
So what I was saying is, like, look into what else you're doing, right? And that's always the thing. And
Yeah.
and for developers, it's good to be lazy. It's good to be wanting to share some code, because otherwise you just rewrite everything every time, and that's not good. So if you want
Effective,
to
not
do-
lazy.
Exactly. Effective. So if you want to do .NET, if you want to do XAML, go at it. No one's moving your cheese. You can do that on WPF. You can do that on WinUI 3, and you can do that on .NET MAUI, and reach Mac and reach Windows. And if you want to do web stuff, then go do web stuff. And then you can also just shove that into a shell, and then it's just a desktop app without you having to write any native code. It's just Blazor on desktop.
I like that you say shove it in, and basically that was what you were doing. You just shoved the file in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've seen, like, some of the Blazor folks, like, do a demo where they start out with a full-on Blazor app, and then they just copy that whole folder into a WebUI folder, and
Yeah.
then it's just there for a desktop app. Yeah.
At a former employer, we were starting up a mobile app. So we took in a company and we asked them, so what technology should we use? Me, being a Microsoft lover, I said, well, we're going to use Xamarin, of course. They said,
Yeah, this was a bunch of years back.
yeah, it was a bunch of years. So they had a couple of different routes that we could go. Most of them was build native. That was the outcome was build native. That was their recommendation, and they had for the shared route like Xamarin or React Native and stuff like that. They said that the downside of that was that you were sharing code. That was a minus. That was bad, because if you introduce a bug, you would get a bug in both platforms.
So I don't know what crappy code they are writing. And they also knew that the competence of the company the developers were only C# and some web. Only C#, and they are go native.
And I'm
Learn
like,
something
but-
new.
But sharing is good. No. You will have 2 bugs now.
I
No.
would have loved to be in that meeting when they said that to you.
I actually already had quit my job at that point.
Sharing is caring.
It is. So I only had like a month left or something like that. So I'm just gonna be silent. I'm not gonna say anything. But no, not gonna do it.
No, but it's also funny that you mentioned React Native, because like we are coming from a .NET and a C# background. It's easy to get excited about Blazor, right? But what if you have a JavaScript background? And you'll be amazed, like, how much stuff Microsoft does it's all React Native, right? So, like, again, choose your SPA framework. It doesn't really matter anymore. All of the stuff that we did with Blazor, you can do the same things with React. You can do the same things with Angular or Vue, because the Blazor WebView, all it's doing is just a shell, and it's going to host whatever you give it. You might have to pull a few more tricks up your sleeve to get JavaScript to like work nicely inside of it, but it's not out of the box to get that going. Yeah.
Inclusive developing,
Yeah.
basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
Use
It
what
doesn't
you
matter
have,
if you're
what you know.
And I also like the fact that from a .NET developer's background, it doesn't matter if you're on a Windows or a Mac, it's all the same. It's all the
Yeah.
same now. Now, if you're on a Linux hardware, as a desktop, that's a separate story. You're a little hardcore then if you're running Linux as your desktop. But again, VS Code works on Linux. So it's good. We have consistency across all platforms. So
Yeah.
come as you are and do what you feel like.
Is there any story? I mean, if you're developing with Xamarin, for example, on a PC, you can still bring up the iOS simulator, right?
That, my friend, is $1 million question.
But what about the other way around? If you're running a Mac, can you run Windows?
No, you just cannot.
Yeah.
Well, you can hack, but no, you cannot. But if you are on a PC, yes, you can bring up the iOS simulator, but it's an Apple restriction, and both Apple and Microsoft are big legal targets, so you don't want to break what they're asking you to do.
No.
Because it's so Apple's so when you're building stuff with Xamarin or .NET MAUI, these are native apps. The app packages are completely native, and it's an Apple restriction that says your app package needs to be built with Xcode that is licensed to the same developer who has the Apple Store account. And nobody can get you out of that. So you do need a Mac of some sort that just does the build from Visual Studio. For the most part, you don't even have to see the Mac. Most people will just get a Mac and just throw it on the network somewhere, just does the build, comes back to Visual Studio, and you're fine. You don't even need to have a physical hardware. You can actually go to Mac in the cloud where you're paying Apple for running macOS and then just run Xcode, do the build, and come back. I don't know if they still do it, but Microsoft had a service called Visual Studio App Center, VS App Center, which was meant to be like a CI/CD pipeline for Xamarin and other types of applications. And that can actually also do cloud builds for your iOS applications. So again, you don't need to have a physical Mac, but you do need a Mac that does the build on Xcode. So that's the story on a PC. On a Mac, then of course you can target any iOS device. You cannot run any Windows applications on a Mac unless you go to a VM like I did.
Right.
Yeah, there used to be things like I forget what it's called, not Hackintosh maybe. Like there were ways
something like that.
Yeah, something like that, but it's just not an approved way. So
yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Better not.
Yeah. I actually did try that out, but never got it working properly.
Yeah. And I mean, if you look at modern Macs, sometimes make for the best Windows laptops because the hardware is nice, it's completely virtualized, and you can do bootstrapped, and then you are running Windows natively. And so if you have a Mac, and there's no reason for you to not run Windows on it. You just can't run it inside of a Mac operating system. Yeah.
Seems reasonable.
Yeah.
Seems reasonable.
Yeah, it does. It does. Since when are we reasonable?
Well, Sam is reasonable.
Well, that is true. That is true. It's all him.
I'm trying. Yeah. So I will make a shout out since we mentioned a few times. If any of this interests you, Microsoft has their Build conference coming up, which will have a lot of things. So .NET is going to be a small slice of that, but still tune in. I think that's May 25th to 27th.
Around there, yeah.
Yeah, so that should be fun. And then they always do a .NET Conf, which is in November. That's when you're going to see .NET 6 come out of previews and be completely production ready. So so we have had 3 previews of .NET 6. Expect Build to drop a preview, obviously, because they're working furiously as we speak to make shiny demos for Build. And then between Build, which is May, and then November, expect maybe 3 or 4 more previews before it's completely done and .NET 6 is ready to go.
And I will see you tomorrow as well. Maybe you can mention that as well.
So I hear, yeah. So, we are all living in a pandemic, and I miss out hanging out with folks we love, folks who are passionate, and just the hallway conversation. That's kind of the biggest benefit sometimes of being at a conference, just sitting down with somebody over a cup of coffee or, an adult beverage of choice. So we have not been able to do that. So I host a little chat show where I explicitly take half an hour, 40 minutes. Given who you are, sometimes it runs long, like I did with Jessica here. But with
Sorry.
Jimmy, we'll keep it strictly to half an hour. I don't like you as much as Jessica, but
That's a good
have
start.
you on. Yeah, I'll have Jimmy on tomorrow on my chat show. And we are on, if I can type here, our Twitch is on Coded Live. So Coded Live, I'll just type that. So
There we
that's
go.
just us on Twitch.
And it's a great channel as well. Not only the chat show, but
thank
that
you.
too. That too.
Yeah.
A lot of good stuff.
At least on the
Awesome.
Coded Live, like chat shows, you're not stuck with me coding and like faltering every step of the way. Our
You
one rule is to not share
didn't mess
screen.
up once today. Not once.
Yeah, it was surprising because like some of the .NET MAUI stuff wasn't working this morning because it's preview bits, but then you fix things up and it worked.
I think that's what you have to pay for being on the edge, on the bleeding edge. Yeah.
And like Peter is making, I did not hit Control Q. Look at that, I survived.
He survived the Control Q, which closes down
It
all
was
the windows.
it was so childish and like so hilariously like mean of me to do that. Like here's Microsoft doing a conference and like hundreds of people are watching, and it just the screen just goes green for a minute because like nobody's on it. I killed my browser. I was the only one showing stuff and talking, and then Jessica came and rescued the thing. So thank you.
It wasn't that bad though. It wasn't that bad. Everybody has done it at least one point. So I think it was worse for you who caused it than it was for us. It was nothing. Actually, the host came in as well, so...
I had fun.
You had fun, yes.
So yeah,
That
thank
was
you. Thanks for having
a
me.
great show. Yeah, thank you for coming and sharing your awesome knowledge.
Well, you say that as an euphemism. What time is it? Is it 9 p.m.-ish almost? 9
Yeah.
in the
It
evening?
is.
Okay.
It is.
I don't know. I mean, do you like have dinner before you start this?
Usually we don't. Most people probably do, but we don't. So
we don't want to have all the blood in our stomach, so we're
Exactly.
just gonna go. Oh, could he just?
we could have just taken a smaller snack or a fruit or something, but we're not smart like that.
I'm in the same boat. Like I can't speak a lot with a very full stomach, so
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
wait to eat. I've
Exactly.
I've seen speakers because like on a user group or a meetup, we normally kind of meet in person and we have pizza beforehand. And
Yeah.
I had a speaker kind of talking to us, and in between he says, "I need to take a break. I ate too much." So, yeah. So,
Whoops. Yeah,
Oops.
no, that's definitely. Okay, so
So I
we will
hope
see.
you-
Thank you so much.
yeah, no. Go have dinner, but thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us.
And I don't think we will be back next week, will we?
I don't know. Why not?
Because it's a holiday.
It is.
Maybe not.
Maybe not. Let us know if you want that. We have a Discord as well. If you want to suggest different topics. I can't actually spell Discord. Is that correct?
I never know.
Yes.
Apparently.
We want
We
more.
want more.
Yeah, there you go. Go for it. Yeah. Maybe we will be back then. Thank
Go
you.
for it.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Take care.